I'm not sure how many witnesses were going to appear by video, but I only have one.
Just one, Your Honor.
Okay.
See, Your Honor, I've got some, just a couple housekeeping things.
Not
Okay,
there
ask me.
yet. I'll get
Okay.
there.
Okay.
We had a couple really serious cases this morning, so that's why we're a little bit off calendar. Okay. We will go on the record in the matter 23 CV 86 Rick Brimacombe et al. Versus Carl Olsiums et al. Appearances are we do have Mr. Brimacombe appearing in person with counsel Christopher Anderson. We also have Carl Olsiums appearing in person without counsel. We're set here today in this matter for a couple things. We are set for a contempt hearing as well as a hearing on damages. Before we proceed, Mr. Anderson, I do see other individuals in the court seated behind you. Are they also plaintiffs?
No, none of them are plaintiffs. One, this is Suzanne Olsiums, is that right?
Yes, I was
She's-
going to turn to Mr. Olsiums
Okay, I'm
and see
sorry.
if that was Suzanne.
Yeah. One of
Mrs.
them-
Olsiums.
I'm sorry. One of them is a witness.
One of them's a witness. All right. And then we have Mrs. Olsiums who is here as well. Mrs. Olsiums, you are a defendant as well. You can come have a seat with Mr. Olsiums. So we have Suzanne Olsiums also appearing without counsel. Before we begin, Mr. Olsiums did state off the record that he had a few housekeeping matters that he wished the court to address prior to arguments. Mr. Olsiums.
Just to save everybody's time, I think just to let the court know that I filed an affidavit yesterday.
I read it, yes.
Okay, and basically admitting to the 2 rentals that I think Mr. Anderson is going to use witnesses to prove. So just to save the court's time, if you look at the.
Well, I understand what your affidavit says, and you did swear to it, et cetera, which would mean that it could be perjury if it's not accurate or true. However, we do need to make sure that it's accurate and true. And he has witnesses who can testify whether it is or it's not. Correct, Mr. Anderson?
That's correct.
Correct.
But even if it's true or not, the point is that the injunction says that.
I understand what the injunction says, Mr. Olsiums. I drafted the injunction.
Well,
I
even if that's
understand
true.
what your appeals says as well, and your motion's denied. Okay, so we're moving on here today. You are in the Court of Appeals for an issue. Quite honestly, I believe that the appeals is premature because we have not even finished this case yet. Today, we can finish the case, probably, hopefully, and then at which time you can proceed and file a court of your appeals, which would at that time no longer be premature. Correct, Mr. Anderson?
That's my understanding of the law, Your Honor, yes.
All right,
Can
my
I-
understanding as well.
Your Honor, can I ask you, you just denied a motion. Which motion was that? I'm
Um,
sorry.
Well, he has multiple motions here.
Correct. Yeah, that's why I asked.
So I guess, I don't know, we can go through whatever motions he wishes to. I didn't find any merit in any of his motions, quite honestly,
Okay.
but if he wishes to continue and make argument per,
Hold on.
but we have 1 hour.
Your Honor, just real quick, I thought maybe you were talking about the motion to stay. Is that the one you just denied?
Motion to stay?
He-
Yeah, that's
Have a-
denied. We're here today.
Thank you.
Motion to stay is denied.
Motion to stay the injunction pending appeal. That's what the motion was. The motion was to
Motion
stay
to
the
stay
appeal.
this hearing is denied. You do not have, you have a premature appeal. You have a premature appeal. We have not even finished this case. Therefore, I can't even stay that until the appeal's done because you do not have a valid appeal. You can do what's called, have you ever heard of an interlocutory appeal? That's not what you did. You didn't use the correct procedure in the Court of Appeals.
But according to Wisconsin statute, I quoted that statute that says that appeal is appropriate if all of the claims and issues were dealt with for either party, is what the statute says.
That's not correct. And so we are not yet resolved the case. And that's what we're going to do here today. That's why we're here today, is to continue to, my hopes, resolve the case. And then from that point on, you can appeal. What you could have done, Mr. Olsiams, is an interlocutory appeal.
No, I know what that
Do
is.
that. All right. So now, what other motions do I need to address before we move on?
Your Honor, my understanding is that that's a damages hearing and it's the contempt motion. And then there was also the matter of the motion to compel additional transcripts. That was my motion. I filed it.
But that's your motion for the Court of Appeals?
No, that was my motion here. It's for the transcripts to go to the Court of Appeals, but
Again,
the
but it's
process.
a premature.
I don't disagree with you on that, but because he already filed his brief from the Court of Appeals and the Court of Appeals hasn't done anything with the prematurity of that appeal.
Well, did you file your response saying it was a premature appeal? Because I don't have any control over what happens. And if you didn't do that, then they're not going to rule that it's a premature appeal, right?
Correct. I didn't file a motion. I think I sent a letter, but I'd have to check on that. I will not swear to that. I'd have
So-
to check my file.
In my view, in my eyes, it's a premature appeal. It's left for the Court of Appeals. So I don't need to address the issue of the transcript because whatever's going to happen in the Court of Appeals, and I don't know what you do in the Court of Appeals because I can only see limited things in the Court of Appeals.
I think they're expecting his brief though, and I would assume that his brief is going to ask for those transcripts, so I would.
Or his brief could say it's a premature appeal, and I'm asking to have it dismissed. It could do one of many things, actually. I don't know. I'm not Mr. Anderson. I just know what I need to do here. My job today, I have two things on my plate: contempt and damages. As for the transcript, the request for the transcript, the motion for the transcript, I have to deny that because it's a premature appeal. And we'll see whatever the Court of Appeals says. Now,
Your Honor, should I reduce that to a written order or is it okay to have it just the way you said it right now?
well, if this is going to the Court of Appeals, it needs to be in a written order.
Okay. What, do you want to do that? I'm
No.
sorry.
You should do it.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah, normally I do it, but sometimes judges want to do it themselves. so-
No, you can do it.
Okay.
Because I did receive your letter, actually, where you had said the
Mhm.
premature appeal, but that was from November 13th.
Right.
And I sent you a letter quoting Wisconsin statute that says it's not premature.
Well, I read it.
Okay.
I don't agree, but I read it. But again, I'm not the Court of Appeals. They'll make their decision, they'll decide. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. They'll let me know. I've been wrong once. All right. Mr. Anderson,
Are you proceed with the witnesses, Your Honor?
you sure may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, out of convenience to the party on the Zoom call, I would call Carrie Rottman.
Ms. Rothman, can you hear me? You are muted, *6. And Zoom, and can I see you, please? Start your video. Do you have video, Ms. Rothman?
I do. One moment here. All right.
There we go. Ms. Rothman, can you please raise your right hand? Do
Yes.
you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. What are we doing first, the contempt or damages, or are we doing a combined hearing?
Your Honor, she is mainly related to the contempt. They sort of combine in my argument at the end.
All right, then contempt, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh my God.
Ms. Rodman, can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
All right. Can you please state your name for the record, ma'am?
Carrie Rotman.
And where do you live, ma'am?
I know it's, I live in Highland, Illinois. Yes,
Okay, is that a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri?
it is. Yes, I'm currently in St. Louis at work.
You work in St. Louis?
I do. Uh-huh.
Okay. At some point in time in July of 2024, did you rent a cabin from Carl Alsiums?
I sure did.
I'm gonna have to say, Ms. Rotman, you're gonna have to move somewhere else, or
Okay.
we're not gonna have to, we can't have her as a witness. I'm sorry.
Too much
There's a
background noise.
lot of background noise.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Is that better? I apologize.
That's much better.
All right.
Ms. Rotman, at some point in time in July of 2024, did you rent a cabin from Carl Alsiums?
I sure did.
And do you recall how much you paid for that cabin rental?
I think the total was $6,656.
Okay, and was part of that $6,656 a security deposit?
It was. It was.
And do you recall how much that was?
It was a $995 deposit.
Okay, and did you ever get that back?
Yes, but it was not within the 30-day time period that was contracted.
And it takes some effort on your part to get that returned to you?
Needless to say, yes.
Okay, what did you have to do for it?
I had to contact him several times, in which there was avoidance of text, and I basically called him out, knowing that he was in jail when we were renting it, and he became kind of nasty and said he didn't have to return my deposit.
Okay, but at some point, it wasn't within the 30 days, was it within 60 or 90 days?
Yes, so I would say more in that ballpark.
Okay, so out of the 6,656, the net amount that you paid was, if I'm doing my math correctly, 5,661. Does that sound right?
That sounds about right, yes.
And you rented this cabin from Mr. Alsiums from July 12 through July 19. Is that accurate?
That is.
You stayed all 7 nights?
We did, yep.
Okay, and actually, that's an 8-day, 7-night stay. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And how many people were in your group?
We had a group of 18 adults and children.
Ms. Rotman, you had signed an affidavit previously in this case. Do you recall signing that?
I do. Mhm.
And everything in that affidavit was true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay, and attached to that affidavit was 5 additional pages. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have those 5 additional pages in front of you?
I do. I do.
All right. May I approach, Your Honor? Do you want a copy?
I do.
Should I have them marked first?
Yes, please. Whichever ones you want marked, I can mark them now. Okay, use that one. Thank you.
Ms. Rotman, those, excuse me, those 5 pages have just been marked as exhibit number 1, but I want to make sure you're looking at the same thing we are all looking at. So at the top of the first page, what does it say in bold?
At the top of the first page, is that the booking confirmation? And
That-
the rental rules, is that where we're at?
Well, you said booking confirmation. Is that the first page of what you're looking at?
That is, yes.
Okay. Second page is that the rental agreement at the top?
Rental agreement, yep.
Okay, and you just mentioned rental rules. Is that the last page?
That is,
Okay. Is this the 5 documents that you received from Mr. Alsiums in renting his property?
yes, via email.
Okay. Via email, you said?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes.
You just have to say yes or no for the court record, please.
Okay.
Thank you. On the 4th page, it appears that your signature appears there. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Okay, and you signed this document?
I did.
Your Honor, we'd offer Exhibit 1.
Mr. Olsiams,
No objections.
it is received.
Mr. Ottman, did Mr. Alsiums or anybody else for that matter ever give you a free no charge night at the property?
No,
Did he ever tell you that you could check in a day early or stay a day late?
no,
And just to confirm, the 5661 was for the 8 days and 7 nights. Is that
Yes.
accurate?
Yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Olsiams, do you have questions for Ms. Rotman?
I do. Ms. Rotman, do you know any of the plaintiffs personally?
no.
And can you tell the court how you got to know the plaintiffs?
How I got to know them when I arrived to the property, we met.
And how did they introduce themselves? Did they come onto the cabin property?
No, no one actually came onto the property. We met on the roadway.
And what did the plaintiffs say to you?
The plaintiffs just made us aware that they didn't believe the cabin was to be rented at that time.
So they told you they didn't think the cabin should be rented?
They weren't sure that because of all of your court issues, that the cabin was supposed to be being rented at that time.
So they conveyed to you that in their opinion that you should not be renting the house?
I guess technically,
That it's a yes or no? So that's a yes?
yes.
Did the plaintiffs make you feel uncomfortable while you were renting the property?
No, the situation I was put in made me uncomfortable.
And what situation were you put in?
The situation that I was put in to arrive to a rental property where there was disputes happening already.
What disputes were happening already?
I'm guessing your previous issues.
Well, you wouldn't have known about these issues unless the plaintiffs came up to you on the roadway and mentioned them to you, correct?
I guess true. Yes. But it is also a public record.
No further questions?
Mrs. Olsiams, do you have questions for Ms. Rotman? No? Okay, thank you. Redirect?
Nothing further.
All right, you are free to go. Thank you, Ms. Rotman.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, next witness.
Your Honor, I would call Christy Haskins.
Ms. Haskins, please come forward, raise your right hand, be sworn in, and have a seat at the witness stand.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to provide in this matter should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Right over there.
All right, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Haskins, can you please state your name for the record?
Christy Haskins,
And where do you live, ma'am?
North Hudson, Wisconsin.
Did you have occasion to rent a cabin from Mr. Alsiums in approximately July of 2024?
Yes,
How much did you pay for that rental?
$5,000.
Okay, can you describe how that occurred?
We basically saw it online. He advertised for his cabin to rent and we contacted him and negotiated that price for, I think it was July 1st through the 5th.
How did you pay the $5,000?
Cash. He wanted me to come to Menard's parking lot. I wanted to meet him at his house, but he said he was at Menard's parking lot in Hudson, so he could pick it up there.
Okay, and did you have $5,000 cash on you when he asked for that?
Yeah, well, no, I had to go to the bank, which was up there by Menard's parking lot. And so I picked up the money at the bank and then went to Menard's parking lot right after that.
And you met him at Menard's parking lot and gave him the $5,000 cash?
Yes, correct.
And was that, when was that? June, July, May 2024?
It was before, so it was in June. The date I would have to look.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
that's okay. So June of 2024.
yes,
Okay, so you paid the 5,000 and then you rented the property in July of 2024.
correct.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Well, give me the original.
Ms. Haskins, I just provided you with a document that the court has marked as exhibit number 2. It's not marked as exhibit 2 at the one you're looking at, but it's a copy of that.
Yeah.
Can you describe what that is for the court, please?
That's the booking confirmation that he had sent me to sign. So the same day that I dropped the $5,000 off, I signed this and handed it to him.
Okay, how did he get that to you?
He sent it to me via a text message.
Okay, and were you able to print it off at some point?
Yeah, I printed it off at home.
Okay, and then you brought it
with me.
Brought it to Menards?
Yes.
When you were at the cabin, how many people were staying at the cabin?
12 people stayed overnight and then we did have multi people because we have family up here. So we did have multiple people there, but not that stayed with us, just the 12 that was with us initially.
Okay. And when you say up here, you just mean in the Burnett County area?
Yeah,
Any-
Burnett, yeah.
Okay.
Washburn, Burnett area. Yes, correct.
Your Honor, we'd offer exhibit number 2.
Mr. Olseams,
No objection.
received.
Ms. Haskins, did Mr. Alciams ever give you a free no charge night?
Not to my knowledge.
Did he ever talk to you about that?
No,
Did he ever tell you that you could check in a day early or stay a day late?
nothing about a day. He said we could come early, even though it said on this that no early check-in. He told us we could come early that day because there was nobody there at the cabin.
Okay, when you say early that day, you're talking about July 1st?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
and did you go early that day?
No, we did not make it out of the house on time.
Okay, so you complied with the 4 PM check-in.
Yes.
Was there anything tied to the $5,000 that you paid to him in terms of getting that rate for the cabin?
Well, we negotiated it all so that we did the rental, and we utilized the pontoon boat. And it was supposed to be all the stuff that was listed on the internet.
Did you leave on July 5th?
Yes, correct.
Did you all leave at the same time?
No, my family left at the checkout time, but I had to stay afterwards because he had wanted me to clean the cabin upon us leaving. So I had to wait for laundry because of the linen. So I stayed until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon because I knew he told me that somebody was coming that evening at 4 o'clock. I am assumed check-in would be at that time. So I made sure that I was out of the house at that time.
So my understanding then, just to confirm, is that the $5,000 was for the 5 days and 4 nights, as long as you clean the cabin as well.
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Olseams, questions?
I'm sorry, what was your last name again? I apologize.
Haskins.
Ms. Haskins, did you know any of the plaintiffs prior to the?
No.
And how did you first come to meet the plaintiffs?
When had a bunch of questions that we had text you and I never received any text messages back. So we went to the neighbors to see if they had a phone number, another phone number for you so that I would know what to do as far as like cleaning the cabin where the supplies were. There, we had a few other questions too, but nobody was answering my text messages, or I called you a couple times too and no answer. So I went to the neighbor's house to see if they had a phone number for you so that I could call someone else or whoever to find out the information that we needed before we needed to check out and whatnot.
Is it true that you were given an alternate phone number to contact?
I was given an alternate, no.
So you're saying no, you were not given an alternate phone number?
No.
So you went over to the plaintiff's houses and when, what was that discussion like? Did you talk about cleaning or?
We just asked for a phone number, and then my husband is kind of a chatty Cathy, so he did talk to the neighbors and, as far as, so he talked about all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's not relevant.
Well, did the plaintiffs tell you that there were disputes about renting or any of that sort?
After the fact, yeah.
Okay. Did that make you feel uncomfortable renting the property or staying there?
Objection as to time frame, Your Honor.
Sustained timeframe.
After you had gone over to their house and started talking, is that when they told you about the rental disputes?
Objection assumes facts not in the record. She didn't say that she talked about that with them. Her husband may have, but it's not in the record that she talked about that with them.
Sustained.
Did you ever talk to the plaintiffs about the rental disputes?
Not until after the fact.
You never talked to them during the week or the 3 days you were there? You never talked to them?
Objection, again, misstates the record. It was 5 days, 4 nights.
Sustained.
When did you first talk to the plaintiffs about the rental disputes?
I believe my husband did more so than I did.
I'm asking you though, when did you first, you're the one that's testifying, when did you first talk to them about the rental disputes? Was it while you were staying there at the cabin?
Me, myself. I don't recall if it was then or after the fact. I believe my husband did, yes.
So
When
then
he
did your
was there.
husband then speak to you while you were staying at the cabin about the rental disputes?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So did that make you feel uncomfortable while you were staying there?
Uncomfortable, yes, that I was put in that position because I believe I talked to you when I was at Menards that I
It's a
didn't.
yes or no question.
I don't know that it is, Your Honor. I think she has the right to answer how she sees fit.
I'm going to sustain your objection as to a yes or no question. You may continue your answer.
It made me feel uncomfortable because of the fact that you lied to me when we were at Menards parking lot, because the reason why I wanted to meet with you is to make sure that this was not a scam or any kind of situation like that. So you made me feel very uncomfortable putting me in this position when you darn well knew that you are not supposed to be renting that cabin
So it was you first started feeling uncomfortable at the cabin because your husband spoke to the plaintiffs and the plaintiffs informed you, your husband, in their opinion, that I had no right to rent the cabin, correct?
Your Honor, I'll object at this point in time. I think it's beyond relevant at this point.
Sustained. And it's very compound.
Good point.
So it was your opinion that it was the plaintiffs that told you that, in their opinion, that Mr. Alseems had no right to rent the cabin.
Same objection, Your Honor.
Sustained, confusing.
who told you that Mr. Alsiums had no right to rent the cabin while you were staying there?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll overrule that. You can answer.
Who told me that? You're putting words in my
Can you
mouth.
just-
When did you
Nobody
first-
said to me,
Stop, sorry. Re-ask the question.
Can we ask her to read back the question?
Please read back the question, Madam Court Reporter. Oh, it says, who told you that, who told you? I can't read it back. You read it back.
Who told you that Mr. Elkins had no right to rent the cabin while you were staying there?
no one said that because those are putting words in my mouth.
Well, you had to find out somewhere that what you said, you testified that what made you uncomfortable is that you were in the cabin and you felt that you didn't have any, there was no right to be rented. The cabin had no right to be rented. So I'm trying to find out, where did you first, who told you that there was no right to rent the cabin?
Objection relevance, Your Honor.
I'm gonna sustain that, but not necessarily on relevance.
Okay,
Again, it's quite compound and confusing.
that is.
Where did you first learn or find out that somebody, who first told you that Mr. Alsiums had no right to rent the property? Who told you that?
No one said that you didn't have a right to rent the property. They said that you had an injunction that you are not supposed to be renting the property. So they were curious why I was there.
Well, it's the same thing, injunction or right to rent the property. So who told you that there was an injunction on renting the property?
The neighbors.
So they told you personally.
They told my husband,
So then who told you?
my husband.
So after all those questions, basically it was the neighbors, the plaintiffs, that in their legal opinion that Mr. Alsiums had no right to rent the cabin. So
You
therefore,
just again, in multiple different hearings, you refer to yourself as Mr. Olsiums. Say that I cannot rent the cabin,
okay,
okay?
okay.
If you're talking about Mrs. Olsiums, you can say Mrs. Olsiums because she's seated right there. But when you're talking about you, say I or me.
Okay.
I believe they were just curious
Oh,
why
I'm sorry, I
was.
thought he was gonna re-ask the
Oh,
question.
yes.
Your Honor.
Can we just have a?
No, you're asking the question because your questions are way compound, way confusing. So think about what you want to ask Mrs. Haskins and then ask her a question.
So it was the plaintiffs, the neighbors, that told you through your husband, that in their legal opinion, that Mr. Alsiums had no right to rent the cabin. Is that correct?
Sustained.
No,
Well, you testified that your husband told you that I had no right to rent the cabin. Is that correct?
Your Honor, again.
no, you're putting,
Objection argumentative. We've already been over this ground 2 or 3 times now, I think, and I think we need to move on.
Sustained. Asked and answered. Argumentative. There's also other bases to sustain the objection. Next question.
So you felt uncomfortable being at the cabin because either through your husband or wherever you found out that you were told that there was an injunction and that legal feeling made you feel uncomfortable because somebody told you that I had no right to rent the cabin.
Sustained. You're
Objection.
continuing to do the same thing, Mr. Olsiums.
Your Honor, additional, so the objection, the question first, but again, the relevance piece here, how it made her feel, I'm not sure how it's relevant to the contempt process here.
It is not relevant. Feelings, emotions are not relevant to the issue of contempt. But Mr. Olsiums, you're representing yourself, so I'm going to give you a little bit of help here. You can't ask questions that are extremely long and confusing and compound.
And I'm
They
trying
have
not
to be
to.
simple. They have to be short and simple and sweet. So if you're asking something, you have to be simple about it. So who told you that I could not rent the property? Then you ask a question after that to build upon that question.
Okay.
Okay, it's question, answer, question, answer, question, answer to get where you're trying to go. Not trying to get where you're trying to go in one question. Because then it gets confusing and compound. And then we have to continue to sustain. Okay,
Who told you I could not rent the property?
again,
Honor.
asked and answered, sustained.
Thank you.
Okay, so you testified that your husband said that I could not rent the property, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. We're going over the same ground 3 times. So
Move
ask and
on
answer.
from that. That was already asked and answered.
Isn't it true that you had, the reason why you were going to the cabin is that you had a wedding going on, is that correct?
Correct.
And you didn't want to stay a full week at the cabin, correct?
No, that is not correct. You stated that the cabin was being rented on the 5th, so we could stay if we wanted Sunday through Friday, but Friday supposedly the cabin was rented. And we wanted to stay Monday because we had the wedding on Saturday. We wouldn't be able to drive up there on Sunday because we still had our family in town. So we wanted to start on Monday to Monday, but you said the cabin was rented that weekend, so we could stay the 1st through the 5th.
Right, but you didn't request to stay a full 7 days, correct?
I don't know.
You recall you and I talking about the exact number of days that you could stay there?
We wanted to stay Monday through the weekend, but you said the weekend was already rented. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you told me that the cabin was already rented. So the time frame that you
I'm not
would
asking you
allow.
that. I'm just asking you that you remember a conversation with me that we talked about the specific number of days that you could stay there and that it was not 7 days, that it could not be 7 days.
Are you testifying or are you asking a question? Because it sounds like you're testifying, Mr. Olson.
I'm asking her if she remembers that conversation.
Then that's what you need to say. Do you remember a conversation that we had? Question mark.
You remember that conversation that we had in the parking lot of Menards?
Yes, I remember the conversation, but no, it was not anything about not being able to do 7 days. It was the days that you would allow was Monday through Friday.
You don't recall that it was about your wedding and that it had to be a specific number of days and that
Objection.
I had said,
You're testifying again, sustained.
okay. Who contacted you after the rental? Did Mr. Anderson contact you?
No, we talked to the neighbors.
And how did you talk to the neighbors? Did you exchange phone numbers?
Well, yeah, because I couldn't get a hold of you.
Did you exchange emails?
No.
Okay. No further questions.
Redirect.
None, Your Honor.
You may step down. Thank you. Do you have any other witnesses?
Not on the contempt matter, Your Honor. I have, well, I guess sort of, there's some overlap, but I have on the damages and Mr. Brimacombe is the only other witness. I
All
have.
right, please call Mr. Brimacombe.
Mr. Brimacombe, please.
Please come forward, raise your right hand, be sworn in, and have a seat at the witness stand.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to provide in this matter should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
We gotta pick up the pace because you only have till noon. Otherwise, we have to set another date and time so that we can finish this.
Mr. Brimacombe, can you please state your name for the record?
Richard Abraham Brimacombe.
Okay, and sir, can you tell me where you live?
I live in St. Louis Park, 3805 Joppa in Minneapolis.
Okay, and do you also own property on Bird Island Lake in Burnett County?
Birch Island Lake on Bridge Road in Burnett County. Yes, I own property there.
I apologize, I misspoke the name of the island or the lake. Mr. Brimacombe, you've been up there during the summer months for how long?
We bought that property, my parents bought that property in 1981. So been up to that property for about 45 years. We utilized several other cabins in that rough neighborhood for probably about 10 to 12 years before that.
And, and have you been going up to that property, during the summer months, occasionally, or you're up there all summer? Tell me about that.
It's, that area is, heavily utilized for the summer months, which is how our family did it. And, then we, winterized it and started spending some, cold weather months up there. And then starting in the summer of COVID 2020, I was staying up there all summer and into the fall. So like mid-May through mid-September to early October.
Did you have occasion to observe during at least the last 7-8 years, something like that? Mr. Alcium's renting his property up there.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and can you describe what that looked like? How many people, how often, how frequent?
Sure. So again, in the warm weather months, so that's the summer, June, July, August. If you have 4 weekends a month, roughly, probably 3 out of those 4 weekends might have the 2 holidays bookending the summer. So Memorial Weekend, Labor Day weekend, and then probably once, twice in the spring, once, twice fall, winter. So they were renting regularly, like 10 to 15 times a year.
Your Honor, I object to this testimony on the relevance grounds. We're talking about from July, they filed the lawsuit in July of 2023. He's testifying to alleged rentals years before that.
Mr. Anderson, I'm going to tend to agree with Mr. Olsiums that let's move on with it because you are running out of time. Unless you,
I would ask, stick to
22
the,
minutes.
Okay, so maybe I can do this, Your Honor. I have exhibits here of pictures of vehicles and everything else. You've seen a lot of them, maybe not all of them, because they've been attached to the affidavits of the people that submitted affidavits in support of our summary judgment motion. Do you want?
But just because you're running out of time doesn't mean you need to speed up your speech because that
I'm sorry.
the court reporter has to take it down.
Understood. Do you want me? I mean, these are already in the record, most of them, if maybe not all of them, but almost all of them probably. I'm wondering if the court wants me to submit them again through this witness, for this hearing.
Everything that's been filed previously
Yeah.
in the motions, et cetera.
Yes.
If I've had them, you just have to make a note of which ones you want me to receive for today's purposes.
but Your Honor, I would object to those on foundation. We don't know what those pictures are of, where they were taken.
Well, that's exactly what I was just saying, Mr. Olsiums, that he has to direct me to what I'm looking at and why, and ask me to receive them.
I'll just do it this way, Your Honor. That's fine.
Thank you.
Can I see those, Your Honor?
I'll get there.
Yep, you're gonna get a copy.
I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibits 3 and 4. Can you tell the court what those are pictures of?
Okay, hold on a minute. I don't see 3 or 4. It just says exhibit with no 3 or 4.
Well, I have a double.
I have no 3 or 4, so I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, if I can ask the court, Your Honor, because only one was marked.
I have 3 and 4, and here's an extra copy of 4. 3 is the car, 4 is the Jeep.
Can I write on it?
You sure can, they're yours.
Mr. Allison, can you tell me what exhibit 3 is?
Mr. Brimacombe, you mean?
Mr. Burmichael, thank you.
Mine too do not have a number on, so I have 2 packages, which this one, the black car on page 1, the trailer on page 2. The trailer on page 3, the 4-wheelers, Those are the caravan that, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, the woman who did the video testimony. That was the caravan of her crew that came in last summer.
And these pictures represent what you observed when you were up there that week or weekend?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're honored after exhibit 3.
I object to that.
Well,
I object to the foundation, this picture. We don't know, where it was taken, what time it was taken. It has to be,
well, he did actually state those things, but as to location, I agree with you with regards to the foundation, so it's sustained.
Mr. Brimacombe, did you take these pictures?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and did you take them at Mr. Alsium's property or when you were on your own property or on the Miller's property or on the Diamond's property?
I did not go on Mr. Alsium's property. These were taken from the road or my property.
And were they taken at the time when these vehicles were on Mr. Alsium's property or your property?
These were taken, some of them are on Mr. Alsium's property, some of them are on the road, and some of them back toward the Miller's property, which is to the north. And the caravan was so long and there were so many vehicles as they were trying to unload their vehicles and get the four-wheelers out and all this other stuff. They started parking on my property.
So Your Honor, I'll offer exhibits 3. That's exhibit 3, I believe. I'll offer that now.
Mr. Olstems?
I'm still gonna object, Your Honor, because we don't know when this was taken.
He indicated at the time that Ms. Rotman was
He didn't,
renting your property.
did he testify to that? I don't recall.
Certainly
it.
said that.
Okay, I don't
Yes.
recall. I'm sorry.
Yep, I have it in my notes.
Gotcha.
It is received.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Brimacombe, as far as exhibit 4, same question. Did you take those pictures of exhibit on it?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall when you took them?
When the renters were there.
Okay, and that was in July of 2024, is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and again, those pictures show what the property looked like around that time frame?
Yes. Some of the vehicles on the Alsium's property, some of the vehicles off the Alsium's property and on other property.
Mr. Olstems?
Again, I'm just gonna object on foundation
What
grounds.
foundation grounds?
Again, we don't know what is this, whose property is this on?
He said some of these pictures are on your property, some are on his property, some are on the road.
Well, I guess I can get to that in my redirect, then I can
Yes.
ask him.
And they're in July of 2024. They are received.
Mr. Birmingham, showing you exhibits that have been marked to the court as exhibit 5 and 6. Exhibit 5 is the multi-page packet. Exhibit 6 is the one page. Can you tell me what those documents are?
Cars that again are some parked on the Alsium's property and other cars parked not on the Alsium's property.
And did you take these pictures?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you took them at the time that the cars were on the property up in Mr. Alsium's and other people's property?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Offer exhibit 5.
No objection.
Received.
Mr. Alsium, can you look at exhibit 6, please?
Mr. Rimical.
Mr. Birmingham, can you look at exhibit 6? please?
Which one is that?
That's basically
Yes, sir.
right there.
Mhm.
Can you tell the court what that is?
Those are two cars that are parked not on the Alsium's property, although the one on the right probably crosses the property line.
Is your understanding that those were renters?
Yes, they were.
And is that
and-
something, I'm sorry, is that something that you took when the renters were there?
Yeah.
Last summer?
Yeah.
Offer exhibit 6.
Mr. Olstems?
objection.
Received.
Mark, 7. You recognize that document, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Similar pictures of cars on property all about at Mr. Alcian's property and other people's property. Is that fair?
Yes, several are not on the Alcium's property. Several are on the Alcium's property. And then if you look at the different angles and where the cars are parked, there are a lot of cars there.
Offer exhibit 7, Your Honor.
Earl Sims,
No objection.
received.
Number 8. Can you tell me what that is, please?
Yes, these are 3 different times where my trail cams were vandalized or ruined.
Okay, and so tell me about the first picture.
First picture, the camera was, best as I could tell, either stabbed with a pen or a screwdriver and ruined.
Okay. And turn to picture number 2.
Yeah.
What's that?
That was what I believe to be fire pit ashes.
Okay, so not so much the camera at that point, but the mess around it.
Sorry, the fire pit, what I believe to be fire pit ashes used to vandalize my trail cam.
So we're still talking about the trail cam there.
Yes, a different incidents, however.
Okay. And then the last one, the last picture there, again, is trail cam.
Trail cam being vandalized, what I believe to be fire pit ashes, and a third incident, a separate incident.
Okay, and do you have an opinion as to who vandalized these?
Yeah, it's my belief that it'd be Mr. Alcims
And why do you-
or his family.
Why do you believe that?
Because we have,
Objection, Your Honor. Objection. There's no found, he's not a. He isn't testifying,
It's
he's
overruled.
he's
He's
seeing.
stating his opinion. Whether or not the court believes his opinion and finds him credible is a different story.
Okay,
Why do you believe that's it?
our property was being vandalized. People were parking on our property and other property owners' property. So I bought several trail cams, which took pictures of Mr. Alcims and the Alcims family committing various acts of trespass and vandalism. And shortly after the cameras got put up, these 3 different instances of the cameras being vandalized occurred. The road is about 1.5 miles long. People don't go out there, rarely, who don't belong. And these cameras were very close to the Alcims property. And not all the cameras were damaged, just the ones closest to the Alcims property.
And do you know that the Alcims been at their property
And
around the time when these cameras?
all 3 incidences, the Alcims had been at the property shortly before they were damaged.
And you know that because of these trail cameras?
You get pictures from the trail cams, and so when they started having trouble, I knew when the trouble happened, which corresponded with the Alcims being there. And so then I drove up north to see what was going on with the cameras.
Your Honor, I'd offer exhibit number, I think that's 8.
Mr. Olsams?
you know, it's quick fire. I'm not quite sure where we're at right now.
just
Exhibit 8 is,
Just exhibit 8, it's just offered for what it is.
Sure.
Received. Thank you.
Mr. Alston, I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 9. Can Can you tell me what this exhibit depicts?
Well, there's multiple pages here with multiple pictures
Let me stop you there. Are these from your trail cam?
from my different, well, I'd have to, they look like different views, some of them. So it looks like 2 or 3 cameras taking pictures of the same scene.
Tell me what the scene is showing.
So the very first picture, Mr. Alsiums is driving his 4-wheeler into a tree. The tree's not on his property. The tree was being damaged. I'd walk by there, drive by there. I looked at the tree. It was like,
Sorry, which picture are we talking about? I have exhibit 9 and there's like 10 pictures. I don't know which one he's talking
He said-
about.
as I said, the first picture.
Okay, the first one,
So I was curious what was going on with that tree, among other things that were happening. Put up the trail cams, and this sequence shows Mr. Alsiums driving his 4-wheeler into the tree, damaging the tree. And then going to the other side of the tree and putting a chain around the tree, attaching it to the 4-wheeler. And that picture I'm looking at, the fourth one in, not Mr. Alsiums. I would assume one of his family members. Putting a chain around the tree, attaching it to his 4-wheeler, and using the 4-wheeler to damage the same side of the tree, but from this point, having the 4-wheeler on the other side of the tree using a chain. And so there's multiple pictures here of damaging the tree.
And again, these are your trail cams.
My trail cams.
And the dates, you see the dates on that, on those pictures, 10/15/2022?
October 15 of 22.
Offer exhibit number 9, Your Honor.
object, Your Honor, this is 2022. I thought we're talking about this is a contempt hearing for last summer.
There's also damages here.
We're doing the contempt hearing right now, not damages.
We're doing both. I joined them. I
So
combined
he-
both hearings.
Okay,
They're received. Next, you guys have 6 minutes. I'm gonna give you 15 more minutes. We'll go into the noon hour to 12:15, but it's looking like we're going to need another day.
Mr. Brimco, showing you exhibit number, I believe this is 10. Can you tell me what that is?
That's Mr. Alsiums, and I would assume one of his children.
Okay. And they're pointing in the direction of your trail cam.
Yes, sir.
And again, the damage to your trail cam happened after this picture.
Yes, sir.
Offer exhibit 10 here.
Mr. Alsiums,
no objection.
received.
Mr. Brimacombe, a lot has happened at your property or near your property on the Alsiums property. We've talked about that already. I'm not going to go back through that. But what I want to know is how has all of the things that have already been found by the court to have occurred affected your use and enjoyment of your property?
So when my parents bought the property, they bought the property to create basically an escape from the cities. My parents got sober and wanted to create a new, more serene, quieter lifestyle. It's at the end of a road over a mile long, goes across a causeway. It's interesting setup, so cars don't generally drive down there. It's very quiet. The reason for the trail cams is activity was happening up there. Vandalism, cutting trees, dumping debris, dumping fire pit ashes, parking on a weekly basis on our property. The irritation and lack of serenity and peacefulness caused by Mr. Alsiums, his renters, and his family was very disruptive. and ongoing. And it is hard to have peacefulness and serenity and quiet when your property is being used as a dump and it's being vandalized and other people are parking on it. And so it impacted our use of the cabin, not only for me, but for our family and our guests. And to have this ongoing disruption, it was very problematic.
Previously, there was finding that there was a problem with the septic system. Has that affected people's use up there or enjoyment up there as well?
Yes.
Your Honor, there's been no foundation or any evidence laid for septic problems, and he's leading the witness.
Your Honor, it was in your order.
Sustained.
What was in the order?
His objection. is
Oh, I mean
sustained?
overruled. Sorry, I thought I was
Thank you.
looking at you.
Okay,
It's overruled.
you can answer, so.
My understanding, septic is built for 4 people, 2 bedrooms. And as we've heard in testimony and as I have in pictures, and
He's no septic expert.
Has the septic system-
smells
has the
when,
smell-
Sustained. And yes, you may now
when,
answer the new question. Wait until your attorney
Thank
asks
you,
the
Your Honor.
question.
Has the septic system itself and the smell emanating from it affected people's use up there? of the
Yes.
property?
Objection, he doesn't know any qualified to determine where a smell is coming from or.
Overruled.
Um,
And
The-
again, sorry, you have to wait until Mr. Anderson asks or finishes his question before you answer. And everybody seems to be hopping over everybody in this hearing. We have to try and be cognizant of that because the court reporter really needs to take a good record. We really know she needs to take a good record.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Brimacombe, you put up how many trail cams?
9,
How much did they cost you?
about 150 each,
Why did you put them up?
because my property was being damaged and vandalized. I had mentioned earlier the dumping, the tree damage. I didn't mention people urinating on my property, but that was happening as well. And I was basically getting tired and sick and tired of that type of behavior, illegal behavior.
And the one trail cam was damaged.
One was ruined beyond repair. The 2 that had what I believe to be fire pit ashes put on it, I cleaned those up and put those back up and they still work.
And then for the ongoing monitoring, if you will, of those, I'm assuming you have that synced to your phone or something?
Yeah, to my phone, $10 a month a camera,
How long have you been doing that? A couple of years?
a couple of years.
You also, well, have you had a survey done regarding the boundary lines of your property?
Yes, we had a survey done a couple of summers ago to clarify the property lines. Generally, I knew where they were. Generally, the Millers who are to the north knew where they were, but we had Wagner survey come out to survey the property lines and put in stakes.
Okay. And you said was that your neighbors?
The Millers to the north and I'm to the west.
Okay, so the 2 of you did it?
Yes, the
Okay.
Millers and myself.
And at some point in time, did you incur any other expense relating to the survey?
Yes, there were 2 points on the survey that are closest to the Alcium's driveway. And those flags, posts got moved. And so we had to have Wagner survey come out a second time to replace those.
How much did that cost you?
600,
Maybe you already said this. How much did the first survey cost?
2,000.
I don't have any other further questions for Mr. Brimacombe.
Mr. Olson's.
Your Honor, I guess I got some bad news for you. This quick shot, all these pictures, I'd like some time to come up with questions for Mr. Brimacombe. I don't feel like I have enough time. I've got redirect for, I'm sorry, that last name again. I apologize.
You don't have redirect for her. She's been released.
Well, Mr. Brimacombe claims that these are her cars. He said he took pictures last summer And
He never stated that.
Yes,
He
he
said a
did.
renter. He said Miss Rotman,
how,
other lady who testified.
well, either way, it's a redirect for Ms. Rothman or her
I
to
called
ask if these are,
redirect.
I'd like to ask her if these are her cars then. So based on new stuff that he's brought out, I have a right to then redirect her and ask her,
You don't.
are these
read-
are these her cars?
It's not redirect, but
I get it. We'll recall the witness, I guess is, so that's why I'm saying I have a lot of, we're gonna have to reschedule this because they're doing quick shot, all these questions that, you know, I would like to prepare a lot of these, a lot of questions for Mr. Brimacombe. And I don't wanna just have 30 seconds to do it. I have a lot of questions for Mr. Brimacombe. And I'd like to look at all of these exhibits and his, based on his testimony and come up with a complete, thorough and long list of questions for Mr. Brimacombe. And I can't do it in the next few minutes, so we're gonna have to reschedule this.
well, Mr. Ulsium's in the real world, you wouldn't get to have time to look at all the exhibits and have lots of time to think of all the questions you want to ask in a real world. In the
Well,
real
usually-
world, Mr. Ulsium's, you get the exhibits and you have to look at the exhibits and then you ask questions off the exhibits on the spot. That's what happens. Don't talk. But Mr. Anderson, fortunately for Mr. Ulsium's, this was not set for a full day, which we need for an Ulsium's case. Okay, so we need to reset this matter.
I understand that, Your Honor. I also
We,
think it protects the record.
yes, and we still do not have, Mr. Ulsium still has not testified. Mrs. Ulsium still has not testified, and it sounds like Mr. Ulsium's would like to recall as rebuttal, apparently, the witnesses that you subpoenaed. So, but you have to figure out how to do that. You're not a lawyer, Mr. Ulsium's, and
You mean
Mr.
filing-
Mr. Anderson doesn't have to have them back for the next hearing. Okay, because that's not his job. We're resetting this, and that's what the court's gonna do, okay?
So I'm a little confused as well. We're doing the damages and contempt at the same time. Is that, I thought we were just doing contempt right now.
The combined hearing, all together. So, January 15th,
I'm gonna be out of town. Can we go early February?
how long are you out of town?
A month?
All of January?
Yeah.
I can do February 4th. I have one little status conference at 9 o'clock that day, but that'll just take a few little minutes and we'll go the rest of the day after that, or at least I'm planning, I'll block off the whole day just in case.
That works for me.
I
I think we'd block out, I'm sorry, you're gonna block the whole day or you just a couple
I'm
hours?
blocking the whole day just in case.
I can do that. Can we have a hard stop at 4 or 4:30?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna be here that long.
I'm just saying that I'm blocking the whole day just in case.
Yeah, I don't expect it to take that long, but I'm.
But I'm
Sure,
just gonna
done.
tell both of you have both said to me multiple times, it's not gonna take that long. Both of you said it, the last time when I scheduled this, you only needed a half hour or 45 minutes. So I'm going to block the whole day on February 4th. In person, that is the day. Okay,
What, at 9? Is that what you said?
9 o'clock, February 4th.
We gonna get a notice then, I would imagine?
Yes.
So other housekeeping stuff, just what if the appeals court says that it's not premature, that it is ripe?
Here's the deal. We'll just wait and see what happens because I'm not, Mr. Anderson hasn't filed anything. I don't know. I'm not the appeals court.
But you have a motion that he's compelling me to give him
And
testimony.
I said I denied it at this
Okay.
time. Because
So
at
that-
this time, I don't know what's going on.
So he,
He may renew that motion a different time. I don't know. I don't know his strategy. That's not before me right now.
okay.
I don't
just
know
see a
what's
bunch of
going on.
Mess happening here, I guess, is what I see.
All I know is right now, I have to finish my case. All I know is my case is not done. So I need to finish my case before, in my opinion, before the Court of Appeals can hear any
Yep.
appeal, because it was not filed as an interlocutory appeal. It was filed as a regular formal appeal.
Yep.
Right? So I just know my duty, my responsibility is to finish my case. And to me, Mr. Olsiams, and this favors you, in my opinion, and in my review, Mr. Anderson's petition and motion to have you provide or supply the whole transcript to me is premature. So that's why I denied it at this time. I have to finish my case. From there, we'll go, okay? I'll see you February 4th, 9 a.m.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.